In this section, we'll examine the exposure control used in 3ds Max. Navigate to the Chapter 18 directory and open the file Chapter 18 Office Suite Render01.max. This is a simple office interior that contains one light meter for measuring the light falling on the floor. Once the file is open, from the main menu, click Rendering, then Exposure Control. This opens the Environment and Effects dialog where the exposure control tools are. The first thing we're going to do is use the Render Preview option in order to see the current exposure. Make sure the Camera 01 view is active and click Render Preview. This will render a representative image of what the exposure will look like. This is not a precise image, however, this is a good representation of the current exposure value. To make adjustments, in the Mental Ray Photographic Exposure Control Rollout exposure area, we have some presets that we can use to begin the process. We can adjust using the exposure value. Make sure the exposure value option is selected. Set the exposure value to 10 if it's not already set. Click on the spinner down arrow. You'll notice that at an EV of 8, the scene gets brighter. Click the spinner arrow up, and at 11, it's getting a little darker, and we start seeing outside. Usually, we want to keep it at 9 or 10, so let's keep it at 10. If you're interested in using a more advanced exposure method, and you have an understanding of photographic exposure techniques, you can switch over to photographic exposure control. The photographic exposure provides more fine-tuning control than with the exposure value, as you can adjust the shutter speed, the f-stop, and the film speed independently. Below the exposure area is the image control area. We're not going to adjust anything in this area. However, if you want to increase the contrast in your scene or adjust the highlights, midtones, and shadows, you can do that here. By adjusting these three values, you can affect the tone of the image, giving it more or less contrast, or enhance the midtones to bring out additional detail. The image control area provides controls for three other aspects of the rendered image. Here we can adjust the color saturation, making the colors in the rendering more saturated or muted based on the needs of the final output. We can also change the white point or white balance of the image to determine what color temperature represents true white in the image. And we can add a little vignetting to the image in order to simulate the dark corners that some camera lenses cause in an image. We're not going to adjust these values, however, these are available if you need to. So once we have our exposure control set, we can move on and adjust our rendering settings. Go ahead and save the file.